guys, we've got a 100 series Land Cruiser here. We've already actually upgraded the LEDs. I'm just going to show you how to reinstall them on the driver's side. If you go over to the passenger side, obviously you have the battery here. Now when you go to install them on the passenger side, what you got to do is you've actually got to undo this bolt, and take this brace out. It's fairly intuitive. I've actually either pushed the battery back after I've taken that out, or when I actually ended up installing these, I just took the battery out altogether. In my opinion, it is the smart thing to do. You need access to just down in this little area here. I can barely even fit my hand in there, period, let alone install LEDs. So make sure that I personally would take the battery out completely. And for the purposes of this video, we're just going to be using the driver's side because there is a big cavity there, which is always handy. So coming around to the driver's side, you will notice. So we were doing some testing earlier, so these have already been installed, but quite easy to do. So you want it when it ends up, when you finish installing it, you want it to be in this orientation. You don't want it to be on the side or angled. You want it to be flat, and that's just so that it mainly beams sideways, not up and down, which is what you want, a nice spread of light across the road, and you don't want to be blinding other drivers. So what you get in the kit is you get a little Allen key. And if you see this little hole here, if you put that Allen key into that hole and you twist anti-clockwise, you can loosen and clockwise tighten this little collar here. And you'll see that there is thirds, but one side's got a big gap. And you can also see on the actual socket itself that it shares the same kind of shape, so that's the correct way to put it in. You'll have to match it. But we've ended up with the cable at the bottom, which I'd recommend. You don't want it coming up and bending it down. It's just not really that neat. But basically what you need to do is you need to loosen the collar with the Allen key, and you need to, when you put it in, make sure that obviously it lines up and this is vertical. The problem with that is when you put it in, you have to turn it clockwise. So it's not as simple as just pushing it in and then turning it, because it'll end up like on an angle. So you need to offset the collar so that when this is vertical, these match up. So for me, that's as follows. So when I put this in, you'll notice I have to put it in at an angle. So I'm actually putting it in like this. And then once I put it in, I twist clockwise, and now it's seated in place. The old socket that you plug it into, it's pretty simple. It's just an old connection, but this just plugs in. If it doesn't turn on, just change it around, even though the positive and negative, for me, it actually, every single one of these I needed to reverse completely. But once you plug that in and you figure out how to get the filament vertical and the collar to line up with where you need it to be, take it out and then like so, and use the Allen key to tighten the collar, find the hole, use the Allen key to tighten the collar again, once you've figured out which orientation the collar needs to be. So just for reference for mine, just for a good bit of a head start, one of these 3 tabs is smaller than the other. It's in the middle. So for me, the smaller tab is just off to this angle here, and the bigger one's here. So that is how I've got it orientated. So then when I go to plug it in and tighten it clockwise, that's how you install the low beam bulb. And I'll just show you quickly here what it looks like. It is bright at the moment, which is not ideal, but we'll just quickly show you what that should look like. So you'll notice there's a fan. These do get quite hot, so just keep that in mind. That's why I had the car off earlier. That is the beam. You can see there that it's beaming down, which is always nice. The next step is actually, you'll find this little teethed nut here, just next to the bulb. So you actually need to loosen this to make it the low beam down and face down. So we'll get a socket for that, and we will show you. It's already very loose because I've already adjusted it, but just need to loosen it basically until you realize it doesn't go down anymore. We recommend going up against like a wall at nighttime when you do the testing, and then making sure that this, just loosen it a bunch, and you'll very obviously see the headlights go down, 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 and then they'll stop. And that's the maximum. But you can just keep loosening this and loosening it, and I'll just show you what that is now. So you'll need an 8mm for this one here, and then we'll just get a ratchet and we'll show you. Okay, guys, so just like so, just loosen this. You'll see it turning. That'll just make the LEDs beam downwards. Won't be able to see much material change from mine because I've already done this, but do this for about a minute and you'll basically almost guaranteed to get to the end of the maximum that it can go down. And realistically, we want to just make it as far down as possible. So next we'll move on to the high beam. So we got our high beam light here. I just took it out. So like the other low beam, it's got a collar, and you can see that you just rotate it until it falls into those 2 little slots, and then there's like 2 little balls on the side that line up with them. If it's not lined up, it won't come out. And similar to the low beam, we just need to make sure that it essentially ends up like this. But unlike the low beam, I find that installing this into the actual socket first helps a lot. So yet again, you've got 2 bigger tabs on the side, a smaller one in the middle, and then there's a large gap at the bottom. And if you look at your socket, that you're trying to install it into, you'll notice that there is, like right now on this one, the biggest gap is on the, I'll show you 1 second. So the biggest gap is actually on this top left side here. So there's a hole here, hole here, hole here, triangle there, and then this is the bigger side that doesn't have anything on it. So when I'm looking at my socket, I know that it's going to have to go in like this. And then you have to turn it clockwise to make sure it locks in place. So put it go in. It can be a bit hard to actually get them in the first place, but if you have enough light, usually isn't too bad. So it's sometimes a bit tricky to line it up, but with enough messing with it, generally speaking, it'll go in. Oh, so I think I was actually wrong there. I think the bottom is actually where the biggest gap is. So yeah, so that's all right. So that's gone in. What I actually use is the bulb to tighten it. So I'll go in and I will line up with that, and then I'll actually just push it in and I'll just keep rotating it clockwise because it'll lock in place. And then if you rotate it right to the right and keep pulling, eventually it'll realign with those little balls that come out. So just keep rotating, and with the balls lined up with the sockets so it actually twists it. You're using this as like a tool essentially right now. And then once you know that it's fully locked in place, you just have to pull and rotate, and eventually they'll realign with the holes and it'll come out. So now what you need to do is you need to make sure that the light actually is facing vertically. So keep rotating again, always clockwise, so you never loosen it, and pull it out. So the good thing about these lights is once you put them in, because this is locked in place now, you can just keep rotating and rotating and rotating until it's where you want it to be, unlike the other one. So with this other light, it's a bit different. With these, like I can put it in like so, which is pretty close already, and then just twist it a little bit, and I know that that's locked in place now. So that won't move, it's locked in place. Then all I need to do is plug this back in. Positive and negative, I found for mine, for some reason, it needed to be the other way around. So positive to negative, negative, positive. I think they're just mislabeled, and then that should work. So I'll show you what the high beams will look like. 1 second. So we'll have our low beams. So that's low beams, and that's high beams. Thanks for watching.